Kitco News special coverage of the Future Blockchain Summit is brought to you by Cook Finance, a revolution in DeFi asset management.
I'm here now with Ralph Simon. He is the founder and CEO of Mobilium Group. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, David. Good to see you.
Ralph, you've had a very long and illustrious career in the entertainment and technology space. Where has your career led you now? I mean, how have you landed up into we're here at the Blockchain Summit, of course, relatively new technology. How did you come about being here?
I'm here because I've been following technology for a very long time, 20 years or so, after around when we were the first people to really commercialize the ringtone industry outside of Korea and Japan. And I got involved in finding out what was coming next, particularly as it would affect people and particularly when social media started to really develop. I spent time in Hollywood, where I was part of the team running Capitol Records, developing things on a global basis. And then more particularly, when we developed the first ringtone business, I got to see the importance of mobile and the way that mobile was going to be heralding a major change as the mobile device became the remote control for people's lives.
Yes.
That has now led into a whole new range of areas. I'm still involved in talent development, and particularly talent development that will lend itself to TV. So we have a very big project in the UK that is called the Virtuosos, where we've found a new generation of extraordinary talent from all over the world. Kazakhstan, India, Hawaii, Canada, the United States, the UK. And this is going to be a television series that will be seen sometime in 2022. I've been involved in curating some of the big tech conferences around the world, in India, in Finland, in Helsinki, in the UK, and in the United States and Canada. And also I've been an advisor to the GSMA, the global trade body for the mobile industry, and I do a lot to do with the Mobile World Congress, which comes to Barcelona in February.
You've been involved with Sony Entertainment as well.
Sony Entertainment, not really, but Sony were people that bought our record company, that we'd had a lot of success with people like Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, Justin Timberlake, and so forth.
Yeah. Can you outline some of the most disruptive technological changes in the entertainment space over your career? You've mentioned the mobile phone being one of them, the internet being another. Give us a summary from the beginning.
The music industry, the recording industry, were really the canary in the coal mine for the digital transformation of the world.
Yes.
There's a fantastic book out at the moment called Tarzan Economics by the former economist at Spotify, Will Page, which talks all about this. But having had that experience and trying to deal with people that were stealing music really led to an understanding of what to do in digital transformation. So now, some of the big new areas that are really making an immense impact: artificial intelligence, machine learning, virtual reality, augmented reality. There's a whole new frame that's developing itself around those particular areas, which here in Dubai at GTEX, this huge 10-hall amazing gathering has shown off these particular areas, artificial intelligence in particular, proving to be a very important avenue of the future.
Does it impact more the consumer side, the user experience, or maybe the production side?
It's actually a technology that's morphing into utilization that finds its way to consumers.
Yeah.
So let's take an example.
Right.
Let's say esports and video gaming. So video gaming is now a massive industry, bigger than the global movie business, way bigger than the global music business, and with participation all around the world. There's a competition right now in Europe called Dota 2. The prize money is $29 million.
Yeah.
So I'm a big proponent for esports and gaming. There's an amazing team of esports athletes based out of Los Angeles called FaZe Clan, run by a great guy called Lee Trink, that are now, they've got 50 or so players in the team. They're playing tournaments literally every week because they're now paid for tournaments. It's like the golf circuit or the tennis circuit, but it's the gamer and esports circuit.
Some might argue that the esports sector as a whole, you're seeing teams in Overwatch, Fortnite being bought out for millions and millions of dollars. You know, they're like professional, traditional sports teams.
Correct.
Do you think the valuations are justified? Do you think it's a bubble?
No, it's absolutely not a bubble. In my view, you now have age groups you've got people in their 60s that were gamers way back when the very first game invented by Nolan Bushnell, Pong. Great game, very simple, but of course it's become much more advanced with people like Blizzard, Activision, companies like that. The global appeal and following for esports and gaming is, there's no limit to it. And now women and women's teams are playing a part. I was at a big esports tournament in Indonesia a couple of years ago where they had 24 teams in a huge national competition. Indonesia, 276 million people, 8 women's teams, 16 men's teams, all competing together to see who was going to be the grand winner of the tournament in Indonesia.
Yeah. What about the distribution of e-gaming? Is it going to be broadcast through mostly the internet, cable television? How do you see this evolving?
Well, of course, Twitch is a very important platform owned by Amazon, but a very important platform for gamers to follow gamers playing games.
Yeah.
But mobile plays a big role. Tencent, the Chinese company, own PUBG, which is now the biggest mobile game in the world. So people access it on their mobile phones. But the console players, basically with the very sophisticated computers, for example, Apple just brought out a new Mac that's got enhanced chipsets that will enable faster game playing and so forth.
You know, it's interesting because last year, of course, COVID happened and many people suffered in the esports industries because people couldn't attend live sessions or events in stadiums where they used to be able to. It's starting to recover, but in the future, actually, we could potentially start to view e-games through the metaverse, through virtual reality. Could that happen?
That could happen, but particularly what you're seeing is a huge rise in the sale of large screen televisions, 65-inch TVs, because gamers want to have a real experience or as close to a real experience as they can. And with some of the new technologies, some of the engines, the Unreal Engine, Montreal, very important in terms of video game development, is playing a very important part.
Ralph, were you a gamer yourself?
I am a gamer, yes, indeed.
Can you share with the audience some of the games that you like?
Well, for me, I've always been a big fan of the Finnish games makers.
Okay.
And of course, Clash of Clans has been something.
Oh, wow.
I was always a great disciple of a guy called Richard Zacconi, who is one of the founders of Candy Crush.
Oh, yeah.
And Candy Crush, which was started by 5 friends in London, was ultimately sold for $5 or so billion.
Right.
So, you know, I was always interested as to how women would gravitate towards playing games. For mobile games, 45% of gamers are women.
Yeah.
So it's not just people that are commuting, and of course with COVID, people weren't commuting, but console games, I mean, you just have to look at the sales of the major consoles. Gaming is massive.
Gaming started off being in consoles. You know, you have to play through either your Atari, your Nintendo, Xbox, or whatever.
Xbox, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Microsoft,
and of course, back in the day, you had arcades. The internet changed everything. Now you can actually interact with people online, multiplayer. What's the next technological revolution that's going to disrupt gaming, you think?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of artificial intelligence manifesting further in some of the construction of the games. The Finns are very good at game development, amazing at game development. Softcell, which was sold to Masayoshi-san and SoftBank for billions. You're seeing an amazing range of development going on that uses virtual reality, augmented reality, and so forth.
Okay, and where does Mobilium fit into this picture?
Well, Mobilium is really, we like to monitor what's coming next and always like to find those great creators that are coming up with something that is going to become a massive fundamental change agent. So we're always looking to see what are those things way on the horizon now that are showing the promise that might become the Clash of Clans of tomorrow, the Candy Crush of tomorrow, or the musician of tomorrow. To give you an example, we've got a young 16-year-old kid that we found who lives in Chennai, in Tamil Nadu in India. When he was 6, he was discovered by A.R. Rahman, the famous composer who wrote the music for Slumdog Millionaire.
Yes.
He won, about 18 months ago, a TV contest in America called America's Best, where he won $1 million, beating all comers, because he could play 2 very complicated songs, one in his left hand, one in his right hand, and a blindfold over his eyes. And He won this competition. He now is one of these young people we are trying to develop, cultivate, work with him on his song development, performance development for this TV series you're doing called The Virtuosos.
Wow, okay. I want to talk about the music industry a little bit because you are an expert on the technological changes over that. Vinyl to cassettes to CDs to MP3s. Finally, now streaming has revived the music industry. We saw a lull back in the early 2000s. Right. What's next?
Okay, streaming has really been the change agent. Just a couple of weeks ago, there was an IPO in Amsterdam. Universal Music, the largest music group in the world, did an IPO in Amsterdam. They were pitched at 30 billion euros valuation. It got up to just almost 50 billion. The music companies have never seen the kind of income that they're getting now from streaming. Spotify, Apple's iTunes, it's massive. There's a big worry though, because the songwriter is not getting paid what they should be getting paid. And there's been a fantastic company run by a Canadian, an amazing Canadian by the name of Mercuriadis, who runs Hypnosis. He's been spending $1.5 billion, just got another billion from KKK to buy catalogs. He bought Neil Young's catalog, he bought Shakira's catalog, and Hypnosis has been an unbelievable change agent with Canadian Mercuriadis being this incredible guy who has completely turned the perception of what songs are as an asset value on its head.
Can investors invest in the music industry today? How could they do that?
Well, they can invest because there's a lot of public vehicles you can invest in. But if one is looking at an investment today, the value of songs and people streaming and the way that streaming companies now are becoming ubiquitous all over the world, where people listen to playlists. Funnily enough, the fastest growing playlist on Apple is calm music, calm solo piano. So people want to get respite from the busy world and also want to be rejuvenated after the COVID. So as a COVID recovery element, music plays a very vital part.
Rob, before I let you go, I just have to get your opinion. Your label has worked with some of the biggest artist names in the world, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, just to name a few. How do you like the trend of music today? Do you like modern pop?
Well, I love great rap. Because to me it's very interesting and modern. I love great performance. So for me, I can see the value of a Michael Bublé, great Canadian. Yes. I can see the value of Drake. There's also another great Canadian. Yes. And I can see the value of Doja Cat. Okay. And so, the music business has always looked for people to change and make an impact. What are you going to play in the background when you're trying to convince that girl I've got your eye on, that you are for her? Here's an interesting statistic from this week. The biggest ever streaming numbers ever on Spotify have taken place on this week with a new recording called Easy on Me by Adele. It came out, it's part of a new album she's putting out called 30. It's broke every single record on Spotify because she, over the last 10, 12 years, has developed into a must listen to by women in the world. Right. She's an amazing magnet for women who all feel that she talks directly to them.
Right. Now, an interesting phenomenon I've observed, especially over the last decade, is the rise of celebrities that are self-produced on YouTube, at home, in their living rooms. One of my idols is Jacob Collier. I'm not sure. Yeah.
He's my supreme idol. Yeah. I love him.
He's won, 3 Grammys already? He's 24 years old?
More than 3 Grammys, but of course he's managed by Quincy Jones, who flew him from London to Los Angeles. He's managed by Quincy's partner, Adam Fell, a brilliant manager, but Jacob Collier.
But he was discovered because he posted his own songs and creations on YouTube, on streaming platforms. This was not possible 30 years ago.
No, it wasn't, but he also comes from an interesting background. In his little apartment where he lived with his mother in Muswell Hill in London. Right. His mother's a violin teacher at the Royal College of Music in London. But Jacob has got an uncanny sense of hearing and in brilliant, unbelievable musicality. And to me, I try and convince every single artist I work with, whether it's in visual or whether it's in music, that they must be aware of Jacob Collier, because Jacob, to me, is the standard by which everybody should try and measure themselves against.
For somebody watching this right now who may be an upstart musician, not yet signed on a label, they want to do it themselves, they want to be the next Jacob Collier, what's your advice to them?
Well, first of all, you've got to be musically proficient.
Sure.
But more importantly, you've got to come up with a song that's got an emotional message that touches people. So writing good songs is difficult. Drake can do it. I always like to look at people that are consistent. Taylor Swift, of course, has really shown what they can do. But writing a hit song, that takes a lot.
Final question before I let you go. The most memorable artist you've worked with in your career?
The most memorable artist I've worked with in my career, wow.
It's a difficult question because you've worked with many.
In a modern sense or in a more traditional sense?
In a production sense.
In a production sense. Well, I would say it's with producers that I've worked with, because I worked with a manager producer for 20 years called Mutt Lang, who produced Shania Twain's big records, Def Leppard's big records, AC/DC's big records.
What did they have that other producers less successful than them didn't? What was their vision that made them unique?
Well, I can only give you a good example by citing a brilliant Canadian producer by the name of Bob Ezrin, who produced The Wall for Pink Floyd. He did the most recent Andrea Bocelli album. I heard a rumor that he might be working with U2, but I don't know if that's accurate. But they just understand song sensibility. They understand, in this world where the whole production of music has become democratized because you can do it on your computer, but you need a real specialist that knows how to shape the song so that the song can touch the ventricles and the earbuds of people's bodies.
Interesting. Okay, well, we'll follow up on that technology. We'll follow up with your work as well.
You got it.
Ralph Simon, absolute living legend. Welcome to Kitco. It's an honor to have spoken to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kitco News special coverage of the Future Blockchain Summit is brought to you by Cook Finance, a revolution in DeFi asset management.